Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Aaron Hilliard. Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland. On this channel, I like to go out into the forest with my trusty dog, Gunnar, and we discover what kind of wild mushrooms are growing alongside the trail. I'm the vice president of the Kitsap Peninsula Mycological Society, and I've been studying mushrooms for over 30 years. I like to go out into the woods and just discover what kind of mushrooms might be growing trailside. And if you're curious about mushrooms or how fungus works and the whole relationship with the mushrooms in the forest, this is the perfect channel for you. So make sure to hit subscribe and come with me and my dog Gunnar into the forest of February 2024 to discover what's growing in Mushroom Wonderland.
Welcome to Mushroom Wonderland.
Beautiful out here. Nice rainy day in the Pacific Northwest. February is a pretty drab time of the year. Oh, look at that. There's some mushrooms though growing right here off of this old downed hemlock, western hemlock laying here. A coniferous evergreen tree. And you can see these bracket-like fungi. Oh, look how thin they are. You might think that these would be Trametes Versacolor or the turkey tail mushroom, but these are actually growing on a conifer here. So although that does happen with Trametes, it's less common. And these ones have this really ruffly kind of margin. And they're softer, much softer. So you can detach these pretty easily. They also have kind of a violet color to the edge of the crust of the margin there. And then they've got these weird toothy pores that are not like that creamy white pore surface of the Trametes Versacolor. But these ones are Trichaptum, or the violet tooth polypore. So these grow on conifers here. They'll often get algae growth on them. You can see right there, it looks like a little algae growing, starting to grow, and they can get quite green. This is a young fruiting of them, and they're not known to be medicinal as far as I know. Although I have been reading The Fungal Pharmacy by Robert Rogers. What an amazing book about medicinal fungi, and it has like every mushroom in there. And so I imagine the Trichaptum is also in there for its benefits, just less studied than the turkey tail Trametes Versacolor, but common winter mushroom. So these don't mind the cold weather. And like I said, young fruiting of the violet tooth polypore. We have Trichaptum. All right, Gunnar. He's being very whiny lately. We'll keep going. Oh, look at this. This is actually kind of cool. This is a cool example of, right here, your red-belted conch. And there's more of them up there. This tree fell down. They cut it out of the way of the trail. Right here, the red-belted conch, Fomitopsis mountiae. So this is a brown rot decayer. Brown rot decayer is eating the white cellulose in this wood, leaving behind all of the brown lignin. And it helps to break down these trees. So red-belted conch, probably the most common mushroom in the forest, this hard woody thing. White pore surface under here, really, really tight pores. You almost need a hand lens or a microscope to see them. Formerly called Fomitopsis panicola, that's the European version, but here in the Northwest, got a different name, so they love these conifer trees, breaking it down in a different way than the Trichaptum was. You know, here's fruiting body trying to come out right here. So mycelium is within this log, and you can see it right there too. So these are also known to be a butt rot decayer, so they could have been the cause of this log's demise and why it actually fell down. So anyways, red-belted conch, I've heard of people maybe using those to make a medicinal tea out of. One guy I heard said he drank like 10 cups of it and felt some kind of a hallucinogenic type effect. But I don't know about that. I can't speak to it. Here, a good example. Trichaptum growing right next to Fomitopsis mountiae. And they can get these little driplets. We call that guttation. And sometimes it looks pretty magical. It's just, the mushroom is just pushing out water. Yeah, and we call these mushrooms, even though they're not cap and stem. I mean, mushroom is just a really broad term for, you know, these fleshy kind of fungi fruiting bodies. Look at this, another really cool tree conch. These ones very rosy colored, very like kind of reddish purple colored. These ones Rhodofomes cayendary. This is another winter, I believe it's it's in the Fomitopsis family. So these guys, Rhodofomes, it's the Rosy Conch. So it's got this reddish, purpley kind of rosy color. And these are another brown rot decayer eating the cellulose out of this piece of wood right here. And these are a winter mushroom, and they're really, really pretty. And, you know, one of the many tree conchs that are growing out here in the winter time. That's probably the most abundant fungi you're going to find out in the woods right now, is going to be stuff growing off of sticks. So if I take one of these off, much easier to remove. Look at that, it's even got kind of a rosy guttation. I photographed these and they were like super rosy colored with crazy guttation. They can be very photogenic. So your Rhodofomes, much more delicate than your Fomitopsis mountziae. There you go, your rosy conch. It's beautiful. You can see those little pores. That's where the spores get produced, is down in them little holes. And yeah, it's got some pigmentation, that rosy pigmentation coming out with the guttation. So even though you're not seeing a whole bunch of big fleshy mushrooms growing all over the forest right now, that doesn't mean that fungi isn't alive and well out here in the woods. Fungi is still here, it's just underground, because all you see is the fruiting bodies, really. And so if we flipped over logs, we could see some mycelium. And just looking at old stumps and stuff like that, you can usually see mycelium. But you need to remember that mushrooms are just the fruiting body. So fungi is doing a huge function in the forest out here. It is just infinitely important to ecology and stuff. And even though we can't necessarily always see it, it is still always here under the ground, in the logs, in the stumps, things like that. And the spores are constantly flying through the air. So fungi is always happening. We just happen to catch a small glimpse of the fungal kingdom when they decide to produce fruiting bodies. Typically in the Northwest, it is autumn when you're gonna find the best mushrooms, the most meaty, delicious mushrooms that everybody are after. Anyways, let's keep going into the forest and discover what other mushrooms we might find growing out here. Right over here on this log, I see we've got quite a fruiting of what appear to be Trametes Versacolor. This is looks like an old alder log, but again, these are a little bit old and soft, and just the way that they look, I don't know, it doesn't look like your typical Trametes Versacolor. Although sometimes some of these weird shaped ones have been sequenced and they come back as just regular turkey tails. So I've seen these at different times of the year fruiting off of the same log. Here's some older ones. Sure that these are Trametes Versacolor, but they can take on these many different looks. You know, these ones are sort of ruffly and scalloped, and you know, the pores are deteriorating. But you know, I was talking to Alan Rockefeller about it, that oftentimes these ones that I'm like, oh, this has got to be a different species of Trametes, just end up coming back as Trametes Versacolor, just another look for the same old mushroom. Turkey tails, super highly medicinal and studied mushroom. I've seen them fruiting on this log for months and months and months. I'll put some footage over this right now to show when this log was fruiting really hard with these beautiful turkey tails. And so I've picked this log several times, and we've made tea and processed them and everything else. These are like really soft, and it's like they're dead and just rotting away. It's bizarre. So anyways, interesting form of Trametes Versacolor. Oh wow, look at this little stick. Right here we got these little orange mushrooms. Look at that, growing off of this little stick. This one Guipiniopsis alpina, or the alpine jelly cone, these little tiny orange fruiting bodies growing off of the stick. And they like to grow on little sticks like this, not usually much bigger than, you know, 1.5 inches around or so. But this one, one of the little orange jelly fungi that, you know, are actually edible. You know, you could eat these. I've heard them called the poor man's gumdrops, which I thought was kind of a funny name. All of these little orange jelly fungi that you can find growing on sticks and logs right now in the winter are edible. Look at what's growing right down here at the base of this old little western hemlock. We have these gelatinous little mushrooms that don't seem to mind this cold, drab part of the year. These guys are known as cat's tongues. Let me show you why. You ever felt a cat's tongue? It's kind of rough. These guys have little teeth. Oh, this one's kind of old. The teeth are not very visible anymore, but look how gelatinous that is. Pseudohydnum gelatinosum, or the cat's tongue. There's 2 of them here. I've made candied mushrooms out of these before on a video that I put out, I think, last year or a couple years ago. But check that out. We made these strawberry flavored little gummies, and you could eat these gummies off the tree. These guys can definitely withstand the winter temperatures. Pseudohydnum gelatinosum, or the cat's tongue, but it's going to have little icicle-like dangly teeth that normally are hanging off the bottom. These guys are just a little old, but yeah, you could just chew these up like a little gumdrop right now in the forest. So get some of those and the Guipiniopsis alpina, and you'd be good to go if you need some gummy treats, I guess. Wow, check out all of these mushrooms. This is the real thing. This is turkey tail. This is your Trametes Versacolor. So it has these concentric color rings, usually kind of this brown and gray colored concentric rings around here anyway. Sometimes they'll be black and even kind of blue colored, but growing in these beautiful shelves like this on this old dead big leaf maple. And this one has an impressive fruiting of Trametes Versacolor. So these are actually like quite velvety. Actually fuzzy, and if you look underneath, it's going to have this creamy white porous surface under there, and if you look really close, you'll see there's tiny little holes in the bottom of that porous surface. But Trametes Versacolor, this one's a really highly studied medicinal mushroom. This is a beautiful fruiting of them. So yeah, this old big leaf maple that's dead here. Wow, it's quite the widowmaker right there over kind of one of the main trails. But you can see people have walked by and picked one because they were unsure, or you know, maybe they don't know what to do with it. But these, you can there you can see the little pores under there when I get up close. But these mushrooms have been used forever in Chinese medicine and by all kinds of cultures. There's a big section in fungal pharmacy about these ones, the Trametes Versacolor. This one's got a beautiful fruiting. So you can just take these fruiting bodies, just easily pull them off. You know, these come off pretty easy. And, you know, maybe take the moss off. Probably not even necessary to do that. But, you know, you take these and just simply simmer them for like 2 hours on low. That's what I've heard. 2 hours really breaks down the polysaccharides, the chitin, makes everything available for you to absorb. And supposedly really highly medicinal, really studied. Paul Stamets talks about his mom overcoming breast cancer with using turkey tail therapy in conjunction with other cancer therapies. But yeah, always exciting when I come across a fruiting like this. I'll pick these and then dry them out, and you can use them later. And this is a really nice fruiting, really easy to harvest. So yeah, I think I'm going to get to work and I'm going to pick me some turkey tail today. Inside my backpack, I keep one of these net mesh foraging bags. So this allows spores to fall into the forest. It's got a little pocket on here. I'll put a link for one of these in the description, and also a foraging knife. You can get it like a set, but it's really nice. If I keep one of these in my pack and I come across a bunch of turkey tail like this, And then I definitely want to collect these. The rain is really starting to pick up out here. It's one thing you got to deal with in the PNW in the winter if you want to be out foraging. It's going to be rainy days. I look on this little dead snag over here. We have a nice fruiting of beautiful little delicate white mushrooms. These ones commonly called the fairy parachute, Morazis Citis. So this one can fruit in the winter time. Again, this is a white rod decayer. Very small, very photogenic. They have really cool gill structure under there. Very few gills, and that's where they produce their spores from. And they have a dark little stipe, you see that? So Morazis Citis, these things can grow in really big numbers on rotting wood this time of year. So doing their job to decay the wood out here. And yeah, this old little stump has a nice fruiting of the fairy parachutes. Again, these are so small, insignificant, you wouldn't want to like try to eat them. Inedible, we'll just call them inedible. I mean, you could probably eat some and it wouldn't hurt you, but if you were to cook these, which you should do with all mushrooms, they're just going to disintegrate away to nothing. They're just not substantial enough to even consider really eating, but they are pretty. You take some cool photos of these ones. Morazis Citis. So here's some other little mushrooms I see growing off of this little log here. Look at these. So these actually have a cap and a stem like a traditional mushroom. We've been seeing a lot of conch and tree mushrooms. See, this one has little gills. This one, it's kind of like a little oysterling. It's sort of like a little oyster type mushroom that grows on the wood around here. This one, I think it's called the rosy oysterling. This one, Skytonotus longices. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one. I wish somebody could help me with that. But these guys, little white spored pleuritoid sort of mushrooms that like growing in the winter out here. And I have this really roughly sort of look to the margin. And they definitely have a little stem and real gills. And so kind of refreshing to not just see tree conchs. You see these Skytonotus out here quite a bit in the winter. And I've heard tell that they're good eating, that some people really like them. Some famous mycologists have said to like to eat these. Obviously, this is a really small fruiting I have right here, but some people, you know, if you find a bigger fruiting of them, you can cook them up and eat them and report back to this video. Tell me what you think. Yeah. I'm gonna leave these here today. Keep going. Everything's starting to get wet. Camera's getting wet. Probably time to head back to the truck. He's telling me he wants to go home because it's raining. You big spoiled baby. Look at this. What are you going through, brother? You want me to tell him about the Styrium? Yeah, right here. Styrium hirsutum. Your false turkey tail, these orange looking mushrooms growing off a log here. These ones are smooth on the bottom. They don't have that white poor surface, right, Gunnar? Do they have them? No, they don't. These are your false turkey tail, non-toxic. They're non-toxic though. Wow, this is new. Look at this fruiting of Styrium. So yeah, these guys really orange. They don't mind growing in the winter at all. This dude, on the other hand, he needs to be next to the warm little fire in the house or something. Come on, man, let's go. Wow, that's funny. So check out this little mushroom I found growing on the side of the trail. Very kind of orange colored gills. Look at that. This is classic Cortinarius. which is kind of cool to see a real guild mushroom growing out here in the middle of February. It's all alone. I thought it was something else and I plucked it up, but this one, Cortinarius flexipes, this is kind of surprising to see in February. I saw a lot of these in November, but yeah, it's got that classic Cortinarius gill color. So they have these rusty orange kind of spores that'll collect on the stipe oftentimes. You can see it right there a little bit. But yeah, Cortinarius, a big genus of mycorrhizal mushrooms. So growing with the trees here, and that's kind of cool to see a mycorrhizal mushroom out here right now. It's mainly just tree conchs. So anyways, Cortinarius flexipes, not known to be edible, probably a good one to avoid. Some of the mushrooms in the Cortinarius genus are no good to eat, even a deadly one. So we're gonna leave that one alone, probably photograph it, upload it, kind of cool. And yeah, Cortinarius, rare February find. He's like a dinosaur on Jurassic Park. What are you going through, dude? He's getting so spoiled. He just wants to go back to the car. Right here, more Morazis candidatus growing on the tree down here. And just a small little fruiting. Right here, Skytonotus growing right there. Those rosy oysterlings. And then if I look in this tree over here, right there, Trametes Versacolor, turkey tail mushrooms growing on that tree. So we've got a couple of productive little trees right here, growing different mushrooms. Oh, look at that nice big fruiting of Trametes Versacolor at the top of that stump right there. I'm gonna leave them. I got a pretty nice bag of them.
Down in here we've got some really cute little mushrooms. These ones quite umbonate with a dark umbo, very nipple-esque, and I'm sure that these are in the genus Mycina. It's a little tiny white spored, white gilled mushrooms like these that you can find growing just off of moss and sometimes dead wood, often just out of the ground. Very delicate little mushrooms. People call these mycinoid, like they're in the genus Mycina, which there's, hundreds, if not thousands, just in this area of Mycina. So hard to nail down to species. But these ones are pretty unique, with that umbo that's very dark in the center of the disc. So the disc is the center of the cap, and your umbo is that real pointy, that pointiness to the cap. And these are going to have white gills and a delicate white stem. And some of these, gosh, my camera keeps switching on its own. That's very annoying. They'll often have little striations on the cap. But these ones are pretty unique. Cute little saprobes growing here in the forest. And, some people spend most of their mycological career just studying the Mycinas. So there you go. These ones are pretty cute. Hard to focus on these little mushrooms sometimes. Big ups to the people who are photographers of the little mushrooms, because they can be pretty difficult to handle and to focus on and to get pretty pictures of. Here are some other Mycinas that Gunnar just kind of discovered. Large troop of these, and they're white with also umbonate and gray in the umbo. Kind of a grayish brown color, but look at this. Nice patch of them down here. These are another Mycina. These are a bit of a more robust Mycina, very umbonate, very kind of fairy tale-esque. Again, white gills. It's going to have white spores. This one's a little bit grayish brown on the center of the disc. Very umbonate, cone-shaped, dark at the base of the stipe. This one, Mycina robusta. It's a very robust Mycina. And they grow in big groups. You can find hundreds of these growing all at once. You can see them up here. And they like just growing out of the forest duff. So these are a saprotrophic mushroom. That means that
they're free living. They can just grow anywhere they want. They're not tethered to an association with a tree or a plant. So, but they do really well in the forest of the PNW in the winter time. So lots of these guys out here. Probably inedible, it would be considered. I don't know that any of the literature talks about the edibility of these. They just would cook away to nothing. I don't know of any like real toxic mycena, so you know, it's probably not going to hurt you, but you could cook a lot of these up and it would just, you know, they would just disappear away to nothing. They would just cook away to nothing. But they're very kind of add a fairy tale feel to the forest. I like those guys because they come out when there's not a lot of other mushrooms growing in the forest. All right, then we got him back to the car. He's happy about that. So we got that nice bag of Trametes Versacolor turkey tail mushrooms. It's a little wet, it's a little cold. We're gonna hit the road and get on out. Thanks for joining this episode of Mushroom Wonderland. Make sure you hit subscribe. Go to mushroom-wonderland.com to get some cool merch, coffee mugs, t-shirts, hats, all that good stuff. And until the next episode, much love, everybody. Peace out. So this is a little look at behind the scenes of what I do when I get home with all of my turkey tail. I'm gonna just put them all in this dehydrator and and get them drying so I can process them later. Up here I've got more from a previous pick, so we can dry them and bag them, save them for processing later. There we go. It doesn't even stack tight, but it will. You know, you don't have to be too careful about the turkey tails, and I'll just let this run for like 2 or 3 days until they're pretty dry, and then just save them for later. So, hey, thanks for joining that episode.